Hello and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. I'm Dr. David Ajibade, and I'm with me here is a very special guest, Professor Mayowa Owolabi. Actually, we've called him Prof since our first day in medical school. We're going to be talking about intelligence and academic performance, but not just academic performance in life. All the factors that affect it, everything from your genes to the environment, whether it's social environment, physical environment, your nutrition, to sleep, to other lifestyle habits that people tend to take for granted, but actually play a huge role on life and how things turn out in the long run. So, Prof, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be your guest.
Yes, indeed. We've known each other. Absolutely. Well, we're really privileged to have you on. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about intelligence. You're a professor. We've called you Prof since you were 16, 17 in medical school. You are among the youngest in our class. UI, University of Ibadan, has among the best students. I'll tell you what, I'll just say that afterwards. Let's talk about your thoughts when it comes to intelligence. What influences intelligence? You have a son that is following your footsteps, so that we know genes are effective. I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us where to start from. What are your thoughts where this is concerned?
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to start by talking about intelligence. What does it really mean to be intelligent?
Yeah.
I think people are intelligent to the extent they're able to formulate and achieve their goals, which help them to attain their purpose in life by understanding and capitalizing on their strengths, compensating for recognizing and compensating for correcting their weaknesses, and modifying their environments through a combination of essential skills. And these skills that usually mark people out are creative skills. When people are able to do either what looks extraordinary or special or unthinkable, or are able to do the ordinary things in an extraordinary way, or in a record time, faster than usual. Those are the things we recognize as intelligence. Intelligence is very diverse. It could manifest in different ways. But one of the critical aspects of intelligence is actually the ability to be creative, analytical skills, practical skills, and so on and so forth. So that's what we know by intelligence. Of course, nowadays there is artificial intelligence, whereby we're able to make machine to convert data into information and activity that is purpose-driven, and that is able to serve an objective. And that's why we say it's artificial intelligence. Intelligence can manifest itself in different ways, some of which you've alluded to. It could be logical, mathematical intelligence. Of course, you have Albert Einstein as reference, and it could even be spatial intelligence. And there, you have not only Albert Einstein as reference, you have other renowned physicists, as reference when it comes to that. But again, you have musical intelligence, and there you have Mozart, who was a prodigy, and then you have bodily or kinesthetic intelligence. You have the sportsmen, footballers and all that. Linguistic intelligence, and you have the likes of Shakespeare. Then you have interpersonal intelligence, emotional, naturalistic, collaborative, creative, and of course, existential or transcendental intelligence. So intelligence can manifest itself in different ways depending on the goals and the purpose of that in particular individual, and people can distinguish themselves in any of these different spheres of human life through creativity and analytical skills, profound discoveries, statements, or contributions to advancement of human life and knowledge that has transformative and generational impact. And so we recognize this as intelligence and manifestation of intelligence. So, what are the factors that influence intelligence?
Yeah, well, sorry. Let me jump in a little bit, because I'm glad you tried to classify. Try to classify, and obviously we don't have the time to really go into each of these in depth. But initially, when you were defining intelligence, my thought was this is mainly street smarts. This is more like a definition of street smart. In other words, getting things done. It's not the same thing as academic intelligence. In other words, going to school, getting a first class or getting a distinction in a particular subject. In other words, you go to class, you hear what the teacher says, and you give the teacher exactly what he wants, how he wants his exam questions to be answered. So that is different from street smarty because you specifically said doing something extraordinary and finding solutions to the problem. And I think that applies more to the real world. So that is good. So we have a lot of things we're talking about here. We're talking about academic intelligence. We're talking about maybe business or streets or mechanical or getting things done, finding solutions. Or maybe that's like the entrepreneurial kind of person.
Yeah.
But a lot of what you've also said with the examples you've given, I would argue that they are more like genetic reasons. I mean, genetic capacity being the underlying factor, and then the environment. Of course, you mentioned Shakespeare, we mentioned Mozart, and a few other people. So I'm hoping we can get it down to like the man on the street, the mother of a child who's maybe getting into secondary school. And you're thinking, okay, or the parents of a child, how can we, what do we need to do? This child maybe have an average intelligence, but what are the factors that we can do? We can provide for him or her that will help him or her excel in their classwork, in their school. I want to use an example of your kid, for instance. Your son is, or your second son is first class in engineering. Your first son, did he get a distinction in UI medical school?
He didn't get a distinction, but did very well in all the subjects. And then he has actually had another talent. He's actually a musician.
Is he really?
You won't believe it. A musician, yes. So
really,
he's very good at learning a lot of skills. Very adventurous. So he's a musician. He actually has a record studio. He was able to combine that with medical school. I don't know how he was able to do that.
Where did he get that from? I know it's not from you. Is it your wife, madam?
Well, my father was an organist in the church, but I never picked up any of those skills. But I don't know. I mean, he just ventured into it, and he actually has record albums. One morning he told me that one of his records had about 500 downloads in Netherlands.
Wow.
So he was able to combine. He records for people and all of that.
What kind of music?
So he was able to combine that with medical.
Well, what kind of music is it?
Popular music, also all classical music, popular music. Different genres of music actually.
So is he singing or
genres of music?
He's playing is he playing a musical instrument, or what's he doing?
He sings, he composes, he also plays the instrument, I mean, on the keyboard, records for people. People come to use his studio, he mixes for them. He does a lot of all of those things.
That is interesting. That is interesting. That is interesting. So, and yet he wants to follow in your footsteps to be a neurologist. Is that correct, or has he changed his mind?
Yes. He wants to be a neurologist. He wants to be a neurologist.
You didn't try to dissuade him. You didn't try to put him somewhere less stressful.
No, well, I didn't. Initially, he said he wanted to do neurosurgery, but then later on, he said, well, now he wants to be a neurologist. So
that is so interesting, and I'm assuming
I didn't influence that.
Oh, you must have, either directly or implicitly or explicitly.
Indirectly, maybe indirectly.
All right. So what are the things that you and Madame put in place for your children? I'm going to give her most of the credit because I know you are busy traveling around the world building your career. But definitely some things that you must have put in place to say, okay, that this is how we want to raise our kids so they can excel in academics and hopefully later in life.
Okay, so let me say that one of the very, very first things that we try to put in place is self-learning skills, ability for them to learn on their own. First of all, to value knowledge, value knowledge as, one of the most important things anybody should have is knowledge, is light, is transformative. It's, readers of today are leaders of tomorrow. So first of all, to value knowledge, value the ability to develop themselves in terms of acquiring knowledge-based skills. So, and being able to do that on their own as much as possible. So I think those are some of the cardinal things. And
How
then giving them,
how
yeah,
how did
yeah.
you do that? How did you foster that?
Well, initially by saying, okay, you have to make sure you read so and so many hours a day, but then later on, task driven, like you need to probably finish so and so chapters in your book in a day, set goals for yourself, be able to accomplish this, accomplish that. And by the way, let me just quickly mention that in his A levels class, he had A star, A star, A, and he
Hmm.
entered the medical school with direct entry, and he was just 15, and he had A star, A star, A, and most of those, and then he also was teaching at the Education Advancement Center just I mean before immediately after passing the A levels that way. So basically self-learning skills, how they
Hmm.
can study on their own. Of course, provide the resources for that, books, whatever they need to ensure that they're able to, and then able to the ability to be disciplined, to be focused, you know,
Hmm.
in order to be able to achieve those objectives. An enabling environment, so they are not distracted, they're able to learn those skills. Uh,
Did you put any pressure? Did you or madam put any pressure on them to come first or second in their classes?
Well, I would say directly and indirectly, Well, I mean, the younger brother, was always leading in his class. Of course, he himself, like I said, uh, uh, entered medical school with straight A's.
Hmm.
So there was some. They just know that they have to excel, and that I really value that. So and that we really value that. So they strive to make sure that they excel. So I think
Hmm.
that is very important, and they were actually grateful for that. That we insisted on them being the younger brother uh, also got to Covenant University at the age of 14. And he said, what will he be doing at home? He can't wait to enter UI. He just has to go to, I mean, he's already, he has good grades. What's he going to be doing at home? So at 14, he was able to already enter the university. And, well, because you're asking me to be personal and to give examples.
Yes. Yes.
While he was in primary, so not primary school, the first year in the uh in the secondary school. At some point, he said he was not going to go to school again. That he had finished. That was first time. He had finished everything they were teaching, and it was very boring. We had to take him to another school where he started in another class. I wasn't going to. But then he had to occupy himself with other things, and we thought because I think he was under challenged. So he had to occupy himself with games and all of that, because the learning environment was becoming boring to him, and he felt what they were teaching him was no longer interesting. So in fact, I thought he was no longer serious because he was really very, very addicted to games, computer games and all that. But I think he was under challenged. And so
Hmm.
when at 14 he said he wasn't going to wait uh, to enter UI, would rather just go to Covenant University at 14. Of course, I said yes, we can. And of course he did his very best to come out with a first class.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
I would say environment plays a role.
Hmm.
Uh, Environment plays a role. Motivation plays a role. Uh, and I would say there are a lot of factors that affect our performance in terms of human intelligence.
Hmm.
We talked about the biology, the genetics, multiomics, neuroanatomical, cellular connectomics, and things like that. Some of which maybe over time one will be able to study and find out which genes are responsible.
Hmm.
But again, the educational environment, socio-cultural environment, like I said, look, this is family tradition is that you must excel. So they knew that they had to put in their best to ensure that happens. Economic factors, physical and mental health are also very important. Environmental factors. So a lot of factors can influence human intelligence and human performance. Role modeling, you know.
Yes.
And like I said, value system is very important. Value system. And I think that was one of the things I emphasized, that look, knowledge is more important than any other thing, whether it is any material thing, money or whatever. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is more important. Knowledge should be valued. Knowledge should be sought. And knowledge is transformative, has incredible power. I mean, everything that we know, including the fact that we are talking now to each other virtually, is a product of discoveries and knowledge, and human intelligence.
For sure.
They recognize that, and they were able to strive. So I take them to, like, my younger son. We just say, "Oh, what do you want?" You just say, "Take me to a bookshop," and you just pick books, or take me to a library. So I made them to love knowledge and love uh, innovation. I exposed them to there was some encyclopedia which I inherited from my father. I would say those are really my main inheritance from my father. So I allowed them to go through some of those encyclopedia that showcased the lives of biographies of some of the great people, great scientists of old, many things that have transformed the human existence. And maybe those are some of the things that stimulated them. And I believe similar things can stimulate other people. First of all, to value knowledge, to seek knowledge, and to know that with knowledge, you can really do the unthinkable, almost the impossible. And you can transform the world. You can solve problems.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that motivation aspect a little bit, because I remember going back to medical school, all the way back to our second MB, when, as you know, I think we had a very challenging time. That MB that takes you from preclinical to UCH, from UI to UCH, that big one where it was disastrous for us. And I think we were cut almost in half, and we lost a large number of ladies during that exam. I think we lost so many. I think we ended up with just about 20. I don't think I'll ever forgive. Okay, I'll take it back. But it was very traumatic, us losing all those ladies. But I remember during those times, there were very smart people who are doing a lot of work. They were highly motivated, obviously. So the motivation factor was not there. But if you're in medical school, you have the genes, you have the smartness, you have the motivation. But I remember that there were many people who were just staying up all night. They were really stressed. They were studying hard, and they had the ability. But it was a huge shock to me and to many others when many of them who had all this aptitude and who had put in the work did not make it. In fact, some of them failed outright and had to repeat the year. Others had receipts. And it taught me a lesson, too, about maybe the stress factor, the sleep involvement as well. So I want to talk about the importance of some of these other lifestyle factors that help to keep your brain primed and able to retrieve information. Because it's one thing to learn and study. It's another thing to be able to retrieve the information and present the information when and if needed, especially under a pressure situation when you're talking to like 5 professors and they're asking you questions. I mean, that in itself is intimidating. If anybody of you have been before UI professors, I mean, they are intimidating, to say the least. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So you're absolutely right. Biological factors like diet, mental health factors like anxiety, depression, stress, so all of those can affect how the brain functions. Stress is a good thing, but if it is chronic stress or if it is too much, then it becomes counterproductive. Stress can help you do things faster, better, but only if it's for a short while. It's just like, the illustration I use for stress is an elastic band. If you stretch the elastic band, in fact, that's the principle behind the catapult. If you stretch the elastic band, you can fire more. You can fire for longer ranges. But if you stretch it to the breaking point, then it breaks, and it just becomes slack and completely ineffective. So stress, if it is measured, if it is only periodic, and if it's not overbearing, can bring out the best in you only for a while, for a short while. Just bursts of energy, adrenaline, and everything working faster, you thinking faster, things like that. So that can help. But if it is too much or for too long, then it becomes counterproductive. So it's something that should be. Then sleep is also very important because sleep is what helps to restore neurotransmitters, neuronal function, help to store memories and all of that. Then,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of studying also for retrieval,
Mm-hmm.
apart from working very hard, which is diligence, putting in the number of hours that is required over the long period of time that is required, and making sure you actually understand and you're not just cramming or trying to memorize. Because in academic intelligence, we talk about Bloom's pyramid or Bloom's taxonomy. The cognitive skills are graded. You don't just want people to know about something. You want them to have analytical skills, critical skills, ability to apply that knowledge. So if someone is learning at just the base level of just knowing that A is equal to B and
Mm.
not knowing why A is equal to B, if questions are asked about why A is equal to B, then that person may not really be able to answer. But if you say, is A equal to B, he might be able to answer. So really digging deep and trying to understand things from principle, from first principle,
Mm.
uh, is very important. And so it means that selecting the resource materials, that helps you to understand what you're actually reading, you know, or help you to understand the basics so you don't have to cram, may be more useful because when you are stressed, then it is actually what is residual that you're able to manifest. What you have learned by rote, what has become part and parcel of you that
Right.
you are able to really utilize at that point in time. Like you said, when you are put in an environment that is intimidating with a professor of a particular field that has been in that field for decades and is now asking you some details that you have to learn along with so many other details of so many other things under a lot of pressure, you may
Yeah.
not remember. So again, when you learn, you're supposed to learn to remember. So turn the titles of what you are reading into questions and try to answer them the next time you are reading that particular chapter or subject, without opening the book, see how much you can remember. Some things are kept in our random access memory, not in our hard drives. So if
Mm.
you want them to go to your hard drive, you need repetition sometimes is
Mm.
required for you to build, enduring memories. And then to be able to retrieve, you have to also practice retrieval.
Mm.
So it's not just about paying attention. First of all, you need to pay attention and concentrate when you are studying something, for you to register. So you must be sure it registers. And then for you to be able to remember and recollect it, you also need to practice retrieval. So all of these are very, very important. And in fact, if you have applied that knowledge, then it's easier for you, to
Mm.
remember it. So whatever you have only read and you have not uh, maybe utilized by saying it or by applying it is maybe difficult to remember. So what you read is not as good as what you have been able to say or express, what you have been able to say or express, but it's not as good as what you have acted upon. So what you have acted upon or utilized is part and parcel of you. You are not likely to forget. So as much of what you have read, if you're able to put them into action, then it becomes more part and parcel. So critical thinking skills, analytical skills, and then trying to understand the basis of what you are doing and applying it. One of the reasons why I think the first MB was difficult was because most of it, even though they try to make it practical by dissection classes and all of that, but again, we were not able to connect. Something like biochemistry was not connected as
Yes.
much as possible to
Yes.
uh, clinical situations, clinical scenarios. Seeing that
Mm.
knowledge, how you can use that knowledge to solve problems for a patient who is ill, you know, uh, gives life to it and makes it something that is more enduring, something you're able to remember even better. I think more and more, and with time, medical schools are transforming the way they teach all those basic uh, basic uh, uh, basic sciences, so to speak. We call them basic medical sciences. The way they teach them by connecting them more and more to clinical scenarios, so that they are clinically oriented. So that is changing, and with that, we expect that uh, uh, the kind of disasters that happen with those exams are less. And again, the questions are framed in such a way that they also reflect clinical orientation. And in fact, in our college now, the College of Medicine, we now have a new faculty of basic clinical sciences, faculty of basic clinical sciences, different from
Interesting.
the faculty of basic medical sciences. So medical educators are beginning to realize that you need to provide that
Absolutely.
connection so that people are able to remember uh, and learn in a clinically oriented manner knowledge that is applicable in the end, not just knowledge for knowledge's sake or for regurgitation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You made some fantastic points. I remember when we were studying for anatomy, for example, it was only when we started, let me use me as an example, it was only when we started using clinically oriented anatomy by Keith Moore, which had lots and lots of diagrams that kind of showed us the clinical application of what a joint is and what a bone is and what the muscles are and the nose is and all that. When it showed the connection and how it applies in clinical work, that's when it started making sense to me. I got to tell you, I know you were always reading the big last textbooks and the other big textbooks, and it just didn't make any sense to me. But when I got to clinically oriented anatomy, that made it so much easier with all the colorful pictures and all that. But so you've said a few things that I think that I need. They need to be. We need to bear. They bear repetition. Ask questions when you're studying. Practice retrieval, and then utilize or act upon information as much as possible, rather than just trying to cramming out all the work. So you've pointed out a few things that you've seen that mistakes people make. But now that you've gone through the system, you were a medical student, you did the exams, you helped a lot of us understand our work. You are a tutor to us in many cases. So thank you for that. But now you are now a dean, you're a professor. You're the youngest professor in UCH's history, right?
Yeah,
How about that?
Yeah.
Amongst a lot of other accomplishments.
Yeah.
But the youngest ever, and there you are. So clearly,
the university actually just awarded me a DSC.
A
The university
DSC.
just awarded a DSC. That was
Wow.
just on November 17th, which was the Founders Day of the university, which happened actually to be
Which is
my
your
birthday.
birthday. Your
And that's the
50th birthday.
yeah, that's the fifth DSC ever to be awarded by the university since its creation in 75 years.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations, Mayowa.
Thank you so much.
That is amazing. We have to post that on the platform, on our WhatsApp platform. We are so proud of you. Okay, so who are the other four people who you are following after?
DSC previously? Well, Professor Yegureje.
Gureje, I remember him.
Professor Akinshowumi.
Professor pharmacology.
Yeah, Dagogo Jack.
Dagogo Jack.
Dagogo Jack, and then Jude or Ohiri, the psychiatrist.
Yes.
So those are the four people who have had it previously.
Oh wow! What an illustrious. That is amazing, and I can see from this that two of them were in the brain health field. So two of them are psychiatrists. Professor Showumi was pharmacology. Or is he still in UCH?
Yeah.
I used to use his office. I used to use his office to study many.
Yeah. I'm not very sure, and I think maybe he's probably currently on leave.
Okay.
Maybe he's probably currently on leave. I've not seen him for some time actually.
Okay. Well, huge congratulations again. We are so proud of you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so absolutely. I know we have to wrap up soon, but so I brought that up to say you've now seen gone through the whole spectrum. What are the other things that you would say going forward for the medical student of the future to be more successful in the training? And you mentioned a few things, but let's hone in on those things for now. What are the things that you really would like to see? If you are God for a day, or if you are king for a day, you were to wave your magic wand, your scepter, and say, "This is how it should be going forward." What are the top things you would say?
Thank you very much. Well, I think there are two sets of skills, two major sets of skills that medical students should learn. I know there's knowledge explosion, no doubt about it.
Yes.
Like I was telling someone recently, uh, because of knowledge explosion, I learned that the Hutchinson's methods, the first set of Hutchinson's methods, that we use for clinical skills, is just only about a third the size of the Hutchinson's right now. Same thing with the anatomy won't change that much because the human body is more or less the same. Evolution is very, very slow. It takes generations for new muscles or new organs to emerge, and some others to become vestigial.
Yeah.
But biochemistry, what we know from biochemistry, what we know from physiology keeps changing, keeps multiplying. So there is knowledge explosion, no doubt about it. And medical students are required or expected to absorb a lot of this. So I was saying there are two sets of skills that medical students should acquire. Eventually, they are going to, because it's so broad, you cannot master all of it. I mean, it's impossible, to master every part of it. They're going to specialize one day. Even when they are a generalist, like family physician, is still a specialty in a sense. So they're going to specialize one day. So that may already start coloring the kind of things they pay attention to when they are studying. But alongside, they shouldn't forget, which is the other set of skills. They shouldn't forget that they need a very strong foundation on the other areas. Because at the end of the day, they must manage the whole person, not just the kidney if they are a nephrologist, not just the heart if they're a cardiologist, but the whole person. And when I say the whole person, in fact, I'm extending that beyond biology to the entire human being. And you see that some of these are things that have been putting forward in neurorehabilitation, in the Lancet Commission, and many of the things I'm involved in, which is the spiritual past of human existence, the soul, the spirit. So these are some of the things. I know it's difficult to define, it's difficult to reach to, but these are part of, and in terms of intelligence, we call that transcendental intelligence.
Okay.
So it's part of the things that is important. How we perceive ourselves in the context of the universe. How we perceive in the context of the purpose of life purpose and the context of the universe. This is very, very important because at every point in time you are encountering a patient, they look up to you to provide solutions to their problems, all of their problems, as much as you can. So you need to understand that context apart from that specialty aspect. So they need that broad base apart from the specialty aspect. So that skill. But I think the most important skill they should get, looking at it from another perspective, is self-learning skills. Very important. Ability to learn on their own, and ability also to contribute to knowledge creation, not just consuming knowledge. Ability to contribute to knowledge creation. And I can start by just asking questions, and there's a lot of questions that are yet to be answered. A lot of things that we can dream about and that may become realities in future. For instance, many people look up to us and think we should be able to cure hypertension. But we are not able to cure hypertension. We know as doctors that we are not curing hypertension. But if you ask the lay people, they think that when they see you, you should be able to cure their hypertension. That's just an example. So these are some of the things we can, of course, with research and all of that, we can try to solve. But if we have that kind of mindset as medical students, if people have that kind of mindset, because that's the time they are exposed to all categories of knowledge, in all fields. If they have that kind of mindset, they can think, they can come up with ideas or new questions, which over time people can explore and that can yield the answers. So those are the things I would tell, intending medical students, prospective medical students, or even current medical students, that knowledge is it, knowledge is transformative, and they are in a profession that basically they are, almost like playing the role of God. In fact, today I gave a lecture on synthetic biology. with what is going on now and what is going to continue even in the future with stem cell therapy, with genomics, with transomics, with artificial intelligence, with so many things that we now know, we are able to make organs, we're able to almost play God. We're able to modify biology. We can make yeast cells to produce insulin or human milk. We can make yeast cells to produce cow milk. We can produce genetically modified mosquitoes. We can produce crops that within the fruits, they have drugs, they have vitamins. So we can do almost the unthinkable, almost the unimaginable. And I was at some point even thinking, that of course we know that we are not the creator, we were created. But it looks like to some extent we are also able to create. And then I was beginning to look at this and say that perhaps we are made in the image and likeness of God. So if God is able to create, maybe God has also empowered us to create, but we have to do that responsibly. So we're almost able to do the unthinkable. And I jokingly mentioned that 200 years ago, if somebody said he was going to fly to America, they would tell him that he will need witchcraft to be able to do that. But now you need only an aircraft to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot is happening.
Yeah.
A lot is happening. You can almost achieve the unimaginable. And we're talking about artificial intelligence, but we can also improve our collective human intelligence by developing ourselves through innovation, through knowledge, by placing value on knowledge. And in fact, the countries that are placing a lot of value on research and development, on knowledge, they're doing so well. The Economist has an article, in fact, I showed that slide today, of how China has overtaken so many countries because of their humongous investment in research and development. And they are performing almost miracles in construction, in engineering, in so many things. So we need to invest in knowledge, both personally, individually, and collectively, and that is the future. And that is even the now, because knowledge is power, knowledge is transformative. With knowledge, you can do almost the impossible. And knowledge and using knowledge is what intelligence is all about. It's ability to know, perhaps what others don't know, an ability to use that knowledge in ways others don't know, an ability to use that knowledge to solve problems that has monumental impact across very wide space and time. And that is what intelligence is all about.
I love it. Absolutely love it. That's really good. Okay, one more question. What are the mistakes that you're seeing medical students and young doctors make in this day and age that you would advise them to do otherwise?
Thank you very much. Well, usually, the time they spend in medical school it coincides with adolescence, with the time when they're trying to form their personality, the time when they're trying to explore life. So this intersects. So of course they should explore life, but they shouldn't forget their focus, the purpose for which they're in medical school. They've been called into what I would call not just a prestigious profession, but I would say it's a very, very solemn and unique and sacred profession, whereby they have the ability to cure diseases if they will, under God. They have the ability to prolong life. They have the ability to determine so many things based on what they know or they don't know, or what they don't know. And that is why they should strive as hard as possible, as much as possible, to know as much as they can, to be able to save as many lives as they can, prolong as many lives as they can, and make as many people live life to the fullest in terms of purpose of life, in terms of quality of life, as much as they can. And I think it's the only profession that has that ability to perform that role from childhood, across the life course. We attend to the well-being of humanity directly, more than any other profession. So it's a sacred profession. So as much as they explore other fields and other things that may be appealing to them while they're trying to form their personality, as much as they are adventurous, they should not lose focus.
They need to keep it in mind that they've been called to a very solemn responsibility to the human body, to the human race, to strive to find solutions to the illnesses and the problems of the human body, and help people live long and healthier lives. I love it. That's great. Well, on that note, Prof, I'm going to have to say thank you, and we definitely need to bring you back to discuss some of these other topics in greater detail. But thank you so much for making it today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I apologize, for not being available on time, but I know this is important. And I said today, whatever it takes, I must give it. And you know that, interestingly, your name, Tayo, is also the name of my son. The one that is a computer engineer is also Tayo. So I'm going to tell you that I had an interview with you today.
That's good. He must be a good man.
Yeah.
Of course. Because my regards to Dayo. Yeah. And what's your first son's name? And I believe you have a daughter too, right?
It's Ayo.
So Dayo, and and then your daughter's name is what?
Is Ayo.
Oh, okay.
Izini.
So
Izini. Yeah.
Izini.
Okay.
Yeah. Izini, Ayo, and Izini, Dayo, and Ayo. All right. Well, greet all of them for me. Greet Madam as well, and keep doing us proud. Congratulations once again for DSC, one of only 5. That is absolutely amazing in the history of your.
Thank God.
Well, we are going to put that on the platform. So, all right. Thank you again. God bless. Thank you, folks, for listening to us on the show today. You can always watch us on our platforms. You can go to our website, brainandbodyfoundation.org. Remember, you are in charge of your own body and your own mind. Be sure to take responsibility and ensure that you learn what it takes to take charge and to give your body what it takes to be healthy and live a healthy, long life. God bless. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.